It turns out humans are amazing at finding hope in darkness. The city glowed in the night as the massive dream machines hummed across the sleeping world, their elegant shapes casting gentle blue light over the quiet streets. The Marin, visitors from distant stars, had arrived with the gift of perfect dreams, promising an end to nightmares and restless nights. Or so everyone believed. Director Ilara stood at her observation post, her dark eyes scanning the horizon, her brown skin illuminated by the soft glow of monitoring screens. The dream towers rose like glittering spires across the cityscape, pulsing with energy that flowed into millions of homes, guiding the sleeping minds of humanity. This was supposed to be a miracle, the greatest gift ever received. The Marin, with their beautiful, peaceful faces and voices like music, had seemed like angels when they first arrived. Their technology had ended sleeplessness, depression, and anxiety, replacing troubled thoughts with perfect, guided dreams. But here in the monitoring station, things were not proceeding according to plan. The dream resistance was growing. The frontline team, a scattered network of people somehow immune to the dream signals, stared at the incoming data with determined focus. Their leader, Dr. Thomas Wells, a calm man with gray hair and kind eyes, moved between stations with quiet confidence. "Hold steady, people. The signal shifts are getting stronger," Wells spoke softly, his voice steady despite the tension. "We need to track the pattern changes." Ilara's translator device picked up the rise in his heart rate, though his face remained calm. She couldn't understand why these humans wouldn't simply accept the perfect dreams. The Marin had designed the system specifically for Earth's people, tailoring each dream to match the deepest desires of the human mind. Yet here they stood, fighting to stay awake. A sudden fluctuation appeared on the main screen, drawing everyone's attention. The dream signal was strengthening over the western districts, pulsing with unusual intensity. Young Mika, barely 20 and with eyes too old for her years, pointed to the anomaly with a trembling finger. "They're increasing the power again, trying to overcome the natural resistors," she said, her voice tight with worry. "This is the third power boost this week." Beside her, Dr. Julian Chen, a brilliant neurologist with perpetually messy hair and a scar running down his left cheek, nodded grimly. "They're getting desperate. More people are waking up every day." Wells moved to the main console, his mind working quickly through the implications. The Marin dream system had seemed like salvation when it first arrived 5 years ago. A world of perfect rest, where every human could experience their deepest desires and wake refreshed. Crime rates plummeted. Productivity soared. Mental illness virtually disappeared. But then came the side effects no one had anticipated. "Are we still getting reports of memory loss?" Wells asked, his eyes fixed on the data streams flowing across the screen. Ilara shifted uncomfortably at her post. The Marin had assured her this was normal, an expected adjustment as humans adapted to the dream system. "Nothing to worry about. 17 new cases today," Chen replied, scrolling through his tablet. "All from the same district where they boosted the signal last week. The pattern is consistent. First they lose memories of their past, then they lose their sense of identity, and finally, they lose their will," Mika finished quietly. "Just like my father." The room fell silent. Everyone knew Mika's story. Her father, once a vibrant artist, now sat in their apartment staring blankly at walls, responding only to the most basic commands. A perfect, compliant citizen who no longer created, no longer questioned, no longer dreamed his own dreams. Wells put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "We'll bring him back, Mika. We'll bring all of them back." Outside, the dream towers pulsed serenely in the night sky, offering perfect peace to anyone who would accept their influence. 97% of humanity had embraced the Marin gift with open arms. Only a scattered few, those with rare neurological conditions or genetic anomalies, remained naturally immune. And then there were the resistors, like the people in this room, who used specialized technology to block the signals and stay awake. To keep their own dreams. Ilara watched them work with growing unease. The Marin had told her that resistance was harmful, that these humans were damaging themselves by rejecting the dream system. Yet they seemed vibrant, alert, intensely alive compared to the placid expressions she saw on the streets each day. "Dr. Wells," called out Reza, a young engineer whose fingers flew across his keyboard like they had a mind of their own. "I've isolated the new frequency. They've added a secondary harmonic that targets the hippocampus directly." "The memory center," Chen muttered, moving to look over Reza's shoulder. "They're not even being subtle anymore." Wells nodded, his expression grave. "How long until the new filters are ready?" "Another hour, maybe less," Reza answered. "But this is getting harder. Each time they adapt, we have to rebuild our defenses from scratch." Ilara stepped forward, unable to remain silent any longer. "Why fight this?" she asked, her voice carrying the musical quality all Marin possessed. "The dreams bring happiness. They end suffering. Why do you resist what everyone else has embraced?" The room went quiet, all eyes turning to her. As the official Marin observer assigned to monitor the dream adjustment process, she was tolerated but never fully trusted. Wells regarded her thoughtfully. "Because they're not our dreams, Ilara. They're beautiful cages." "What do you mean?" she asked, genuinely confused. "The dream system adapts to each individual's desires." "At first, yes," Chen interjected, his voice calm but firm. "But we've analyzed the patterns. Over time, the dreams change. Subtly. Almost imperceptibly. They start removing certain elements: creativity, curiosity, dissatisfaction. The very things that make us human," Mika added softly. Wells moved to the central display and brought up a series of brain scans. "These are from willing participants in our study. Look at the changes over time." The images showed human brains, their neural patterns shifting over months of dream influence. Certain areas dimmed while others brightened. The changes were subtle but unmistakable. "You're turning us into something else," Wells said quietly. "Something docile. Something that doesn't question or create or challenge. Something that just accepts." Ilara stared at the images, a cold feeling spreading through her. This wasn't what she had been told. The Marin leaders had described the dream system as a gift, a way to help humans overcome their troubled minds and find peace. But looking at the evidence before her, she couldn't deny the pattern. I didn't know," she whispered. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared through the facility. Red lights flashed as the security systems activated. "They've found us," Reza shouted, fingers frantically typing commands. Multiple vehicles approaching from the south entrance. Wells remained calm, moving quickly to a wall panel where he pressed his palm against a hidden scanner. A section of the wall slid open, revealing an escape tunnel. "Evacuation Protocol Alpha," he announced. "Grab the essential equipment and move out. We have 3 minutes." The team moved with practiced efficiency, gathering tablets, drives, and specialized equipment. They had prepared for this possibility, knowing their resistance couldn't remain hidden forever. Ilara stood frozen, uncertain what to do. As a Marin observer, she should alert her superiors. This was the resistance hub they'd been searching for. Yet the evidence she'd just seen troubled her deeply. Wells approached her, his eyes kind but urgent. "You have a choice to make, Ilara. Right now." "I don't understand what's happening," she admitted. "The dream system was meant to help humanity." "Perhaps that's what you were told," he replied. "But we've seen the truth. Come with us, and I'll show you everything we've discovered. Or stay, and report what you've seen. But decide quickly." Outside, the sound of vehicles grew louder. Enforcement officers would be breaking down the doors any minute. Ilara made her decision, surprising even herself. "I'll come with you. I need to know the truth." Wells nodded, relief flickering across his face. "This way." They moved swiftly through the escape tunnel, a narrow passage that led deep beneath the city. Behind them, they could hear the crash of the main doors being forced open, followed by the sound of boots on the floor. The tunnel opened into an abandoned subway station, where several vehicles waited. The team split up, boarding different cars to minimize the risk of capture. Ilara found herself in a small transport with Wells, Chen, and Mika, the vehicle moving silently through underground passages that hadn't seen regular use in decades. "Where are we going?" she asked as the city lights faded behind them. "The one place the dream signals can't reach," Wells replied. "The dead zone." Ilara had heard rumors of this place, a region where some natural phenomenon blocked the Marin signals. The official explanation was geological interference, but the Marin avoided discussing it whenever possible. As they traveled through the darkness, Wells explained more about what they had discovered. The dream system wasn't just influencing sleep, it was gradually rewriting human consciousness itself, making people more compliant, less creative, easier to control. But why? Ilara asked, struggling to reconcile this with everything she had been taught. What purpose would it serve? That's what we're still trying to understand, Chen replied. But we have theories. They drove through the night, eventually emerging from the underground passages into open countryside. As they traveled farther from the city, Ilara noticed subtle changes in the landscape. The perfectly maintained fields gave way to wilder growth. The uniform housing clusters were replaced by individualistic dwellings, each one unique. And the people they occasionally glimpsed seemed different, more animated, more varied in their expressions and movements. Dawn was breaking when they finally reached their destination, a sprawling compound nestled in a valley between hills that seemed to shimmer slightly, as if the air itself was distorted. "Welcome to Haven," Wells said as they passed through a guarded gate. The last place on Earth where people still dream their own dreams. Haven was unlike any human settlement Ilara had seen before. While Marin-influenced cities were orderly, clean, and uniform, this place exploded with color and variety. Buildings of different styles stood side by side, many adorned with murals and sculptures. People moved about with energy and purpose, their faces expressive, their voices carrying a range of emotions. Most striking of all was the absence of the peaceful, placid expression that had become the norm in dream-influenced society. These people looked fully alive, sometimes stressed, sometimes joyful, but always intensely present. They parked near a large central building, and Wells led them inside to what appeared to be a medical facility. But instead of patients lying peacefully in beds, these people were active, some engaged in heated discussions, others working at computers or tending to new arrivals. "This is our recovery center," Wells explained. "We bring people here who've been under dream influence but show signs of fighting it. The natural interference in this region blocks the signals, and eventually, their minds start to heal." Ilara watched in fascination as a doctor worked with a young woman whose face seemed to flicker between the serene expression of the dream-influenced and something more dynamic, more human. "How long does recovery take?" she asked. "It varies," Chen answered. "Some people bounce back in days. Others take months. The longer they've been under influence, the harder it is. And some—" His voice trailed off. "Some never fully recover," Mika finished quietly. "Like my father." Wells led them to a conference room where several people were already gathered around a table covered with maps and diagrams. They looked up as the group entered, their expressions turning wary when they spotted Ilara. "It's all right," Wells assured them. "Ilara is with us now. She's seen evidence of the pattern changes and wants to know more." A woman with streaks of gray in her dark hair stood up, extending her hand. "I'm Dr. Sarah Kaminsky, chief neurologist here. I was one of the first to notice the changes in dream patterns." Ilara shook her hand hesitantly, still adjusting to the human custom. "What exactly are the Marin doing to human minds?" she asked directly. Kaminsky gestured to the wall where brain scans similar to the ones Wells had shown her were displayed. "It's a sophisticated form of neural reprogramming. The dream state is when the human brain is most malleable, most open to suggestion. By controlling dreams, the Marin can gradually reshape how we think." "The process is brilliantly subtle," added a man Ilara hadn't met yet. "I'm Professor Alan Reed, cultural anthropologist. I've been tracking the social changes. First, the dreams remove our nightmares, our fears, and who wouldn't want that? Then they smooth away our rough edges, anger, frustration, discontent. Helpful, right?" He pointed to a timeline showing changes in human behavior over the 5 years since the Marin arrived. "But they don't stop there. Next go creativity, questioning, the desire for change. Gradually, they're turning humans into perfect, peaceful, productive servants." "But why would the Marin want servants?" Ilara asked, genuinely confused. "We have all the technology we need. Automation handles most labor." The room fell silent for a moment, exchanges glances that told her they had been debating this very question. "We believe it's not about physical labor," Wells finally said. "It's about something else entirely. Something only humans can provide." Before he could elaborate, Alarms blared through the compound. A young man burst into the room, his face flushed with urgency. "Marin ships," he gasped. "At least 3, approaching fast. They've never come this close to the dead zone before." Wells was immediately on his feet. "Activate the reinforced shielding. Get everyone to the bunkers." The room erupted into coordinated activity. Ilara followed Wells as he strode quickly through corridors, issuing orders and checking systems. "I don't understand," she said. "The Marin leadership believes this area is simply uninhabitable due to natural interference. Why would they suddenly send ships?" Wells gave her a sharp look. "Perhaps because you're here? Are you being tracked, Ilara?" "No, she began, then stopped. "My regular reports. If I missed sending one." Wells nodded grimly. They would know something was wrong. They reached a control room where screens showed 3 Marin vessels approaching. Sleek and beautiful like all Marin technology, they nonetheless looked ominous as they descended toward Haven. "They've never taken direct action before," Wells muttered. "Always working through human authorities, maintaining the fiction that they're just benevolent visitors." Ilara watched as the people of Haven moved with urgent purpose, not panicking but clearly preparing for a confrontation. Children were led to underground shelters. Teams activated defense systems that she hadn't realized existed. "What will they do?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," Wells admitted. "But I suspect they're not coming to talk." As if confirming his words, the lead Marin ship fired a pulse of energy that struck the hillside above Haven. The ground shook, and dust rose from collapsing rocks. "They're trying to disable the natural interference," Chen said, watching the readings on a nearby console. "If they succeed, the dream signals will penetrate the valley." Ilara felt sick. This wasn't how Marin were supposed to behave. They were peaceful, helpful visitors who had shared their advanced technology freely. At least, that's what she had always believed. "I can stop this," she said suddenly. "Let me talk to them." Wells turned to her, skepticism clear in his expression. "Why would they listen to you?" "Because I'm one of them," she replied. "And because I can tell them something they don't expect to hear." After a moment of consideration, Wells nodded. "What do you need?" "A direct communication link and somewhere they can see me clearly." Minutes later, Ilara stood on the roof of the main building, a communication array hastily set up beside her. The Marin ships hovered nearby, another energy pulse preparing to fire. She activated the link, speaking in the musical language of her people. "This is Observer Ilara. I request immediate cessation of hostile actions against this human settlement." There was a pause, then a response came through. "Observer Ilara, you have failed to report. Are you being held against your will?" "No," she replied firmly. "I am here by choice. I have discovered concerning patterns in the dream system implementation. This requires discussion before any further action is taken." Another pause, longer this time. "You appear to be influenced by human deception. The dream system functions exactly as intended." "As intended for what purpose?" she challenged. "To help humans or to change them? I have seen evidence that the system is altering fundamental aspects of human consciousness." "That is its design," came the calm reply. "You knew this, Observer Ilara. All Marin know this." The statement hit her like a physical blow. Had she known? Had she simply chosen not to see what was happening? "Why?" she asked, her voice carrying across the valley. "Why change them?" "Because they are dangerous as they are. Creative, questioning, never satisfied. They would spread through the galaxy like a virus, changing everything they touch. We offer them peace instead of their endless striving." Ilara looked down at the compound below, where humans fought to preserve the very qualities the Marin sought to eliminate. Their messy, complicated, beautiful humanity. "These people don't want your peace," she said. "Not at that price. It is not their choice to make. The process has already begun on thousands of worlds. Earth is merely the latest. Stand aside, Observer Ilara." The lead ship's weapon powered up again, the energy gathering in a bright, pulsing orb. Ilara made her decision. "I cannot do that. I stand with humanity." She turned to nod at Wells, who activated a switch on a nearby console. Immediately, powerful jammers concealed throughout the valley activated, sending waves of disrupting energy toward the Marin ships. The vessels shuddered, their elegant forms suddenly less stable as the energy patterns that maintained them fluctuated. "We've studied your technology," Wells called out. "Turns out, the same principles that make the dream system work are what power your ships." Interesting connection, isn't it? The Marin vessels began to drift, their weapon systems flickering and failing. Ilara could sense the confusion among her people. They had never expected resistance, certainly not effective resistance. "This isn't over," came the final transmission before the ships retreated, moving back beyond the range of the jammers. Ilara stood watching them go, a mix of emotions washing through her. Relief that the immediate threat had passed. Sorrow at the betrayal of everything she had believed about her people's mission. And something new, a sense of solidarity with the humans who had refused to surrender their dreams. Wells joined her on the rooftop, watching the Marin ships disappear into the distance. "They'll be back," he said quietly. "With more ships, better shielding." "Yes," Ilara agreed. "This was just the beginning. Why did you help us?" She considered the question carefully. "Because I realized something important today. Dreams aren't just pleasant experiences during sleep. They're the expression of something essential, the freedom to imagine different possibilities, to create your own future." Wells nodded. "That's what we're fighting for. Not just to stay awake, but to keep dreaming our own dreams." Below them, the people of Haven were emerging from shelters, returning to their work with renewed purpose. Knowing now that they weren't just resisting an alien influence but fighting for something fundamental to being human. "They'll try to discredit you," Ilara warned. "Tell the world you're dangerous extremists, that you're hurting yourselves by rejecting the dream system." "They've already been doing that," Wells said with a grim smile. "But every day, more people start to wake up, to question why they can't remember their lives before the perfect dreams. Our network is growing." As the sun climbed higher in the sky, they descended from the rooftop to join the others. Plans needed to be made, defenses strengthened, the truth spread to those still under Marin influence. Ilara found herself welcomed into their councils, her knowledge of Marin technology and psychology suddenly invaluable. The transition from observer to ally had happened in mere hours, yet it felt right, as if she had finally awakened from her own kind of dream. That night, as the people of Haven slept natural, unguided sleep for the first time in years, their minds created dreams of resistance, of hope, of possibilities that no external system could have programmed. Dreams as unique and varied as they were themselves. And as Ilara watched over them, learning what it meant to stand against her own people for a principle she had only just discovered, she understood something profound about humanity. Their greatest strength wasn't in their technology or their numbers, but in their stubborn refusal to surrender their inner worlds, their imagination, their hope. They were, in the truest sense, the last dreamers. And she would help them keep dreaming, no matter what came next.